Welcome, everyone, to Strategies for Maintaining and Managing a Diverse and Complex Federal Supply Chain in an Ever-Changing Compliance Environment. This presentation is brought to you by Quimbee. My name is Eric Leonard, and I look forward to spending the next 60 minutes with you surveying and analyzing the ins and outs of federal subcontracting and supply chain management. This includes front-end analysis, such as whether a company is a subcontractor or not, and what, if any, federal prime contract clauses need to be flowed down to lower-tiered contractors, to strategies for monitoring lower-tier contractor compliance during performance and other related, what I call hot topic issues. We will also highlight some of the cutting-edge challenges in this area, including new DoD cybersecurity requirements, nuances associated with the use of other transaction agreements, OTAs, and the recent efforts to exclude the use of certain foreign companies to support the performance of U.S. government contracts. The selection of subcontractors, lower-tiered contractors, suppliers, vendors, and the like can really make or break whether performance under a federal contract is successful and profitable for a prime contractor. And perhaps even more importantly, whether the contract achieves the mission and delivers the product or service that the government bargained for through the award of the contract. For many large federal contracts, no one company can provide the entire solution sought in an RFP, making it necessary to form a team to prepare a proposal. How to form that team, how to select teammates, and on what basis are all complex inquiries that require knowledge of the relevant laws and regulations governing subcontracting and teaming arrangements. In this presentation, we'll seek to walk through that process and suggest strategies from the perspective of prime contractors and their lower-tier counterparts on how to navigate it successfully for all parties involved. As I noted earlier, we're going to start and talk a little bit about Subcontracts 101. I want to start there because it's really critically important to ensure that all parties involved understand whether they are considered and being treated as a subcontractor or not for purposes of performance under a contract. And we'll walk through some examples of types of arrangements that typically would be subcontracts versus ones that likely don't rise to the level of a subcontract relationship. And then we're going to spend some time talking about flow-down obligations. Flow-down obligations can take many different forms, and we'll talk about the different ways flow-down clauses can appear in a contract, where they appear, where they come from, the sources of those obligations, and the scope of those obligations. And then I'll spend a little bit of time talking about mandatory versus recommended flow-downs. Certain clauses that are flowed down by prime contractors from their prime contract are required flow-downs, and the scope of that required flow-down is going to depend on a number of factors, including the size of the contract, the type of subcontract, and others. But in addition to those required flowdowns, there are a whole set of non-mandatory or recommended flowdowns that I want to spend some time talking about. These are the type of flowdown clauses that, while maybe not required by the letter of the law, are critical for the prime contractor to flow down to their subcontractor to ensure that the subcontractor and prime contractor both can meet their performance requirements to the government. I'll spend a little bit of time talking about, from my experience at least, the flow-down negotiation dynamics, some of the challenges and strategies. Probably will highlight a few of my pet peeves when it comes to flow-down negotiations, because this can be a somewhat contentious debate, but nevertheless, it's a critically important to understand the structure of that negotiation, and hopefully I can provide a few pointers from my experience on how to make it as successful and I guess least cumbersome as possible. And then we'll talk about some current developments and areas of emphasis for flow-down obligations for all contractors throughout the supply chain. Cybersecurity, banning of certain Russian and Chinese companies. These are all recent developments. Buy America Act I'll talk about is also another recent development where we see a lot of activity, and it's really important, I think, to stay on the forefront of this so that not only you ensure that you, as let's say the higher tiered contractor, are compliant, but that you're making sure that your lower tiered contractors and suppliers and others also are compliant with these obligations. So with that, let's get rolling. First, I want to take a minute or two just to describe the current contracting environment that contractors and subcontractors are facing.